Hi guys, we're going to go over the answers to the 4-6 weeks review homework. Okay, so what I want you to do for extra credit watching this video is grab a different color pen or pencil. For instance, if you wrote in pencil, grab a pen. If you wrote in pen, grab a pencil. It can be whatever color you want. Just go ahead and make sure you have a different color. And I want you taking notes as I take notes. Either if you had the wrong answer, write the right answer in a different color, or add any notes that you might have forgot along the way. Okay, let's go ahead and get started. So starting with what is a mutation? The simple definition of a mutation is any change in DNA. Now, I want to get away from saying mistake because that makes it sound like mutations are always bad. And we know they're not. They could be good, bad, or neutral. Okay? So circle one, a silent mutation. Let's think about what the word silent, we all know what the word silent means in everyday language. So a silent mutation will not affect the cell, keyword not, because the same or different protein is produced. Well, think about it this way. To not affect the cell, that means I need to have the same traits. And how do I get to traits? Well, remember, proteins determine traits. So the only way to not affect the cell and have the same traits is to also have the same protein. Okay, that is a silent mutation. Remember, guys, this is a type of point mutation. Circle one, if a frameshift mutation occurs, then all or 1 or 0 amino acid will change, whereas if a point mutation occurs, then all 1 or 0 amino acid will change. So let's go ahead and break these down. I'm going to do it kind of over here. We have two types of mutations. We have frameshift and we have point. Now, frameshift, I can do two things. I can insert or delete a base, and that causes everything to shift either one way if I insert or the other way if I delete. Now, point doesn't really make that much different. All I'm doing is substituting or switching out a base. For instance, I take a T and I turn it into a G. Not really changing anything. So in frameshift, since I move everything, all amino acids after the mutation will change. In point, it's only going to either change that one amino acid, or if I get lucky, it's going to code for the same amino acid. And when it codes for the same one, that's called silent. So point is going to be 1 or 0. Now, which type of mutation is depicted here? We have our original and our mutated DNA. So all we have to do is go through compare them, TAC, GCT, A. Oh, it looks like here's the mutation. And everything after the mutation is correct. So all I did here, guys, is I went from an A, I changed the A to a C. Now, I didn't add a base. I didn't delete any. I just did a substitute. So that right here is a point mutation. Next, talking about cancer. Now, this you're going to have to read a little bit on your own. Basically, the gist of it, I'm going to draw off to the side. We know we have the cell cycle. It goes something like G1, S, G2, mitosis, cytokinesis, and then it goes again. This is the process of making new cells. Well, along here I have some checkpoints, some stops to make sure there are no mutations. Usually if I find a mutation, I'm going to fix it. But sometimes this mutation can cause this cell cycle to go out of control like this, where it goes way too fast and I make way too many cells. We call this uncontrolled cell division. Okay, this is cancer right here. When I make way too many cells way too fast, those cells are going to clump together and make a tumor. A tumor is literally a mass of cells. As you can see here, we have cancer versus normal. All cancer is uncontrolled cell division. It goes way too fast. So oncogenes are mutated form of genes. Oncogenes can transform a cell into a tumor cell. Some tumor cells are benign while others are malignant. These guys you really don't have to know to answer the question. It says, how does the presence of an oncogene lead to the formation of a tumor? Well, I just said a tumor is a mass of cells. How do we get that mass of cells when that cell division goes way too fast? It's out of control. Another word for uncontrolled is unregulated. Because when you regulate something, you are controlling it. And un just means not. So not regulated or not controlled. Now, what happens when those checkpoints over here in red are defective? We can have mutations that lead to uncontrolled or unregulated cell division. And that disease is called cancer. Moving on, this is the review, mitosis. Remember, guys, toe is part of our body. So how do we make body cells? This is going to be asexual, which means not sexual. Somatic. Somatic is another word for body cells. We are maintaining, which means keeping the same chromosome number. Remember, all body cells have 46 chromosomes. And are we increasing genetic variation? Well, remember, genetic variation is changes in DNA. We know all body cells are exactly the same, so there's no changes in DNA. This is going to be no. Now going on to meiosis. Meiosis is sex cells here are also called gametes. I am reducing that chromosome number specifically by half. That's why I'm making haploid cells. Remember, they only have 23 chromosomes. Go from 46 to 23. I cut it in half. And we know sex cells are all different because if they were the same, every time two people had kids, they would always be twins because all their eggs and sperm would be identical. We know that's not true. So meiosis is increasing genetic variation or differences in DNA. Now going down here, list the phases of mitosis in order. Here's where I want you to think about PMAT. So right here at picture 1, it looks like all my chromosomes are in the middle. So that is my metaphase. Here it looks like they're pulling away from each other. That's going to be my anaphase. Here I still have one cell, but I have 2 nuclei. That is my telophase. And this is my prophase, when you start to see the chromosomes come together. So here it goes like this. I have 4, 1, 2, and 3. The order there is PMAT. Next, the process to the right happens in meiosis. What is the process of creating new allele combinations? So I know I have, these are called homologous chromosomes. Two chromosomes, same size and shape, one from mom, one from dad. In meiosis, they buddy up and they get so close that right here they're going to cross over and they're going to exchange some DNA. Now, crossing over, another word for it is genetic or DNA recombination. If you look closely at those alleles, you can see I'm switching up that DNA. What am I doing here is I'm not making identical sex cells, right? I'm switching them up. I'm not adding any mutations. I'm creating genetic variability. Now, genetic is DNA. Variability means differences. And this has nothing to do about how fast I'm reproducing. So again, that process is in meiosis. It's going to the back. What is the appearance of offspring X? So I got a bit confusions on here. What I want you to do, guys, is start by labeling the genotype in that box. So as I can see, I have big L, little l, big S, big S. Let's go ahead and zoom in on this. All right, so what is the appearance of offspring X? I need to go down here, look at this key. So if I have a big L and a little l, who's going to win is the big one. So that is a long snout. And then I have big S, and that is going to be sandy fur. Now it's asking me, next question, what is the phenotype of an offspring with the genotype LLSS? Okay, so big L, big L. Let's look at those. That, when I have two of the same alleles, I know that is going to be homozygous. And looking at my key, big L, that means long fur. Go over to my other trait. I have two different alleles. Different, I know, is hetero. And big S, little s, well, the big one is always going to beat out the little one. So go to my key here. Big S means Sandy. So picking the correct answer choice there, we have homozygous long snout and heterozygous sandy fur. Now, what percent of offspring will have both dominant phenotypes? So dominant phenotypes, looking at my key, means I want them to have long fur and, long snout and sandy fur. Let me go ahead and cross these for you. Now, the combinations are already done. You just have to do the crossing. That takes a little bit. All right, guys, I went ahead and crossed those. I'm going to make a key. So we have 16 children here. Whenever I find one with a long snout and sandy fur, I'm just going to put a check mark in that box to keep it all straight. So it looks like this one is good. This one's good. This one's good. Here, this one would not be good. While it would have a long snout, it would have brown fur because we have little s. So that one's not going to be good. Looks good. Same with here. This would have short snout and sandy fur. It's not what we're looking for. Here and good. All right, so if I total those up, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So this is 9 out of 16. You go ahead and do that in your calculator. That gives you 56.2%. Now, moving on to evolution. According to the theory of evolution, all organisms came from a common ancestor. That's someone way before our time that all organisms today on Earth are related to. So which organisms are the most closely related? So this is one of the evidences of evolution. Now, the closer you are without a physical barrier, such as a river, a mountain, or an ocean, the more related you are. Okay? Now, if you have a barrier between you, that is called geographic isolation. Isolation means separation. You are not going to be related because the two species can't mix. Say I have a mountain, I have some snakes over here, some snakes over here. Well, this is my barrier. See, this side of the mountain is windy. This side is dry. These snakes are going to have to evolve to have different traits to best survive in their own environment. Eventually, they're going to evolve and become so different. I have species 1 and species 2. Now, these species are going to say separate species because when we have a barrier, they can't mix, right? They can't move freely. So let's see, who is the most closely related? Let's look at A. We have 3 and 4. As you can see right there, we have a barrier between them, so they're not related. Same thing, I have 5 and 6. Barrier between them, not related. 1 and 3, there is no barrier, so that looks good. And 7 and 8 is the same problem. There's a barrier between them, so it's not related. Now, for why does the physical barrier lead to different species? It goes back up to this picture I put a star by. Because each species, once you split up the population, is going to have to evolve separately. and then you can't freely mate and move between them. Now let's go ahead and look at this diagram. Remember, the closer you are, the more related. The further apart you are, the less related you are. So, all organisms are related to a common ancestor. Well, we know that. I'm going to go ahead and put a big black dot on where the common ancestor is in this tree. So letter A looks good. The turtle is related to the leopard and not the salamander. Well, let's see. The turtle is right here. The turtle and the leopard are closely related. So the turtle is more related to the leopard than the salamander. But they are all still related. We know that. So we can't say they're not at all. The tuna, let me do tuna in red. So the tuna is more related to the turtle than the lamprey. Well, the tuna and the lamprey are closer, so we know the tuna and the lamprey are more related. That doesn't work either. The organisms look too different to be related. Well, although they do look different, guys, it's more than just the physical characteristics we can see with our eyes. We need to be thinking of the organism as a whole, and we know they come from that common ancestor, so they are related. The best answer here is letter A. Which of the genetic variations, now remember genetic variations is change in DNA. How do I get changes in DNA? Through mutations. Every time I have a change in DNA, that is leading to new traits. So which of these new traits basically will help a species survive in an environment over time? So a squirrel that has learned to climb higher to reach foods, that sounds good. It's going to help that squirrel survive. Learned is what I want you to focus on. Now, if you learn to do something in your life, say I learned to write with my right hand. Well, that's not in my DNA. That's not my trait that I inherited from my parents. So is that going to help me survive over time? Am I going to pass that to my kids if it's something I learned to do on my own? No, I'm not, right? That's that definition of inherited. If you learn to do something, that's not going to help your offspring because they're not going to get the trait. So I'm going to cross that out. A dog that is infected by tapeworms, that doesn't sound right because we want to survive here. It's not going to help you. A snake that cannot camouflage, well, camouflaging is a good thing, so we can cross that out. And letter D, a person that is resistant to the flu. Now, resistant means the disease doesn't affect you. Now, this, guys, is an inherited trait. You do get it from your parents, and it will help you survive, and it'll help your offspring survive because they're also going to get it. So letter D is the best answer. So, guys, key takeaway in this problem is what traits do you learn versus what do you inherit or get from your parents? If it's something, guys, that you learn, that's not going to help you survive over time. That's not going to have any effect on your offspring because you're not changing your DNA. Now, some organisms have genes that improve their ability to adapt and survive. If the genes also help their offspring survive and reproduce, then which of the following will increase? So let's take an animal that has a great adaptation, like a giraffe with long necks. That giraffe with the long neck is going to survive and pass on the long neck to their offspring. So the frequency or amount of this gene, long neck, is going up. Remember, guys, evolution is not happening to one person. For example, a short neck giraffe can't say, I wish I had a long neck, and grow a long neck. So evolution is never happening in an individual, right? It's not happening in a chromosome. It is happening in an entire population. So over time, this population will have more giraffes with long necks and less giraffes with short necks. So again, natural selection occurs in, we just said, populations, not individuals, and will increase the frequency. Another way to say frequency is the amount of genes that better allow the offspring to survive and reproduce. And these good genes are called adaptations. This here is the homework. So for extra credit, again, make sure you are going along with a different pen or pencil, correcting your homework, and also making notes of anything that you forgot along the way. Go ahead, turn it in, or send a picture of your homework to me, and I will mark you off. Thanks for watching, guys.